I was a paramedic for over 30 years. You get used to the worst of people and the worst nights. But there's one night, just one, that I still can't explain. And I've tried. The science doesn't fit. The facts don't line up. The silence that followed, that says more than any report ever could. It happened near Skinwalker Ranch. Yeah, I know how that sounds. But this ain't no campfire story. There was a man, hurt bad, speaking a language I've never heard in my life. No ID, no blood type match, no past. We saved him that night. But something about him never left me. Name's William Prescott. Folks around Vernal just call me Will. I'm 65 now. Been retired 5 years. Paramedic most of my life. 32 years riding those back roads with a radio, a gurney, and a prayer. Born and raised right here in Uintah County. My old man ran cattle out near La Pointe, and I never saw much reason to leave. Met my wife at a gas station off Route 40 back in '79. We got 2 kids, both grown. One lives in Ogden, the other moved clear to Arizona. Can't blame 'em. This place, it's quiet. Real quiet. Sometimes too quiet. After I retired, people kept asking if I missed the job. And yeah, I do. Not the hours, not the paperwork, but the people. There's something about being the one who shows up when everyone else is panicking. You see folks at their rawest. Ain't no pretending when someone's bleeding out on the asphalt. And the land out here, it doesn't forgive much. Roads vanish in the snow, signals drop out. You break down 10 miles from anywhere, and you're on your own. You learn to stay sharp, stay skeptical. That's how you survive. Which is why I never paid much attention to the stories. You grow up around here, you hear it all. Skinwalkers, UFOs, lights in the sky, cattle mutilations. That ranch west of Fort Duchesne, Skinwalker Ranch, has been the center of those tales for decades. Folks around the res won't even drive past it after dark. Me? I figured it was just desert talk. People need something to blame when things go wrong. But that night... Look, I've answered hundreds of calls. Car wrecks, overdoses, house fires, you name it. But I've never felt what I felt pulling up to that scene. It was early October, 2016. I remember 'cause the aspens were starting to turn. Cool night, dry. I was on a night shift with my partner, Rick Alvarez. Good guy, ex-Marine. We'd worked together for a decade, trusted each other's instincts. Dispatch called in at 1:37 a.m. Said a rancher had found a man lying just off the road near Bottle Hollow Reservoir. No ID, no vehicle, just there, not moving. We figured it was a transient, maybe high, maybe hit by a car. Pretty standard stuff. Took us about 25 minutes to get there. As soon as we turned off the main road onto that dirt track, something felt off. I know how that sounds, but there's no other word. The air got heavy. Not humid, just thick, like sound didn't travel right. Our headlights were cutting through nothing but dust and darkness. And there were no animals. That's the thing I noticed. Out here, there's always something. Crickets, coyotes, owls. That night, dead silent. We found the guy curled up near a fence line, clothes torn, covered in dirt and blood, looked maybe mid-30s, strong build but thin. His eyes were open and he was whispering. I knelt down, asked his name. Nothing. Just kept whispering. I leaned in and realized he wasn't speaking English. Wasn't Spanish either. Wasn't Navajo. And I've heard enough of all three to know the difference. It didn't sound like any language I've ever heard. Almost rhythmic, like chanting, but low and broken. Rick looked at me and mouthed, "What the hell?" We checked for trauma. He had a gash above his eye, some swelling on the side of his head, possible concussion. No signs of a car strike, though, no broken bones. Just bruises and that strange calm in his eyes. As we lifted him onto the stretcher, he suddenly grabbed my wrist, hard, eyes locked on mine, and in that same strange language, he spoke fast, like he was trying to tell me something important, like a warning. It wasn't frantic, it was urgent. Calm, but urgent. Then he passed out cold. I remember Rick saying, "Let's get the hell out of here." And for the first time in years, I didn't argue. Now, I've seen people hallucinate. I've seen seizures, strokes, shock-induced rambling. This wasn't that. This man wasn't out of it. He was in it, focused, like he knew something and couldn't get it out fast enough. The drive back was quiet, too quiet. And then we saw it. About 5 miles out, something crossed the road. I don't care what anyone says. We both saw it. It was tall, thin, on 2 legs but not shaped like a man. Too fast. It moved like smoke, but there was weight to it. Rick slammed the brakes and swore. I just stared out the window, heart thudding. We stopped, scanned with flashlights. Nothing. Not even a print in the dust. When we got to the ER in Roosevelt, the guy was still unconscious. Docs couldn't get a clear blood type. Didn't match any profiles. No fingerprints on record. They sent samples to Salt Lake. No matches. Nobody came forward. No missing persons reports that fit. It was like he appeared out of nowhere. He died 2 days later. Never woke up again. They said internal bleeding. Something with his liver. But no one could say how he got out there. Or why. And the language? They recorded it. Sent it to BYU Linguistics. Nothing. One guy said it sounded vaguely Uralic, like old Finno-Ugric or something, but that didn't make a damn bit of sense. Weeks went by. Nobody claimed him. County buried him in a numbered plot. No name. Just a date. I've gone back to that road a few times since then. Daylight only. I stop. I get out. I listen. Still no birds. Still no wind. That part of me, the trained, grounded, skeptical medic, keeps looking for the angle I missed. A logical thread. Maybe he was trafficked. Maybe it was some cult thing. Maybe it was drugs that messed with his speech. But deep down, there's this voice in me that won't shut up. Says maybe, just maybe, some of those old stories ain't just stories. I never believed in skinwalkers. Never gave that ranch more than a glance on the map. But after that night, I don't know. And that not knowing, it stayed with me. Back in those days, I was still doing nights mostly. Some folks hate night shift, but not me. Less traffic, fewer distractions. Just you, the road, and whatever God decides to throw at you. Me and Rick had been working together a long time by then. 10, maybe 11 years. We were like clockwork. Didn't have to talk much, just a nod, and you knew what the other was thinking. That's important out there. A lot of folks think being a paramedic is all action and sirens. Truth is, most of it's just waiting, watching the sky change, listening to the scanner, trying not to fall asleep at 3 a.m. with a cup of bad gas station coffee in your hand. The station was a squat little building just outside Vernal. Nothing fancy. 2 bays, a break room, a couple bunks. We kept it clean. You gotta respect the space, even if it ain't much. Nights like that, we'd play cards, read, shoot the shit about dumb stuff. Rick always brought sunflower seeds, and I'd give him hell when he spit them in a cup. Most nights were quiet. A broken arm, some old-timer fell out of bed. Maybe a drunk banged up in a bar fight. But we were always ready. That's the thing. You don't let your guard down. Not out here. See, the territory we covered wasn't just Vernal. We ran calls clear out past Randlet, up toward the reservation, even into Duchesne County sometimes. Lot of desert. Lot of nothing. You get a call out there, you're not getting there in 5 minutes. Sometimes you're the only help for 50 miles. That's why we carried extra supplies, spare fuel, and I always kept a blanket or 2 in the rig. Cold can kill just as fast as anything else. I remember that particular week had been weird. Couple of calls from ranchers reporting strange lights in the sky. One guy swore up and down he saw something hovering over his barn. We'd heard it all before, so we laughed it off. Even made a bet. If we got called to Skinwalker Ranch itself, Rick'd have to buy breakfast for a week. But the truth is, you hear enough of those stories and part of you starts filing them away. Not because you believe them, but because patterns matter. Weird is still data. You start to notice when things feel off. And that whole area near Bottle Hollow, it's always had a feel to it, like the land's holding its breath. Maybe it's the history, native ground, bad blood, old bones. Maybe it's just the wind. But I've pulled folks out of rolled trucks who swore they saw something step into the road before they crashed. Once had a teenage girl in shock say a shadow with yellow eyes chased her off a trail. You learn to nod, stabilize, and not ask too many questions. But I'll admit, there were a few calls that stuck with me. One time we responded to a guy who'd sliced his hand open fixing a fence. When we got there, he wouldn't let me treat him until he finished drawing something in the dirt with a stick. Some kind of symbol. Said it kept him out. I asked who them was. He just stared past me and muttered, "You'll see someday." Weird stuff. But again, you don't take it home with you. That week before the call, I'd been feeling off myself. Hard to explain. Nothing wrong physically, just restless, like something was building. Rick noticed too. Kept saying the radio felt too quiet. No chatter, no usual back and forth with dispatch. Just silence, except for the occasional static crackle. Made the nights feel longer. October nights out here are dry and crisp. You can see every star. It's beautiful, but lonely. Sometimes I'd step outside the station just to breathe it in. Remind myself how big the world is. I've seen the Milky Way stretch from one horizon to the other. You'd think that'd make you feel connected. Most nights it does. But that week, it just made me feel small. We had a regular Tuesday night run to check in on an elderly diabetic in Naples. Nothing serious, just routine. Afterward, Rick joked we should swing by the ranch and see if the aliens needed a ride. I flipped him the bird and said, "Only if they tip better than you do." That was our humor. Dark, dry, just enough to keep from going crazy. Because truth is, you carry every face with you. Every scream, every last breath. You learn to put it in a box and close the lid tight. But that lid gets heavy. And when the silence stretches too long, the box starts to rattle. I guess what I'm saying is, we were tired. Not physically, but tired in the way you get when you've seen too much and can't quite forget it all. We were good at our job, and we took it seriously. But some nights, the weight creeps in. And then that call came in. Middle of the night, man down, no ID, remote location. We looked at each other, and neither of us said it out loud, but we both felt it. This one wasn't gonna be normal. You don't always know, but sometimes, yeah, you just know. And everything about that call, from the silence on the drive to the look in that man's eyes, told me we were heading into something different, something we weren't ready for. It started like any other night. We clocked in at 6, checked the rig, stocked the meds, joked about the leftover chili in the fridge. Rick was in a decent mood. His daughter had just gotten engaged, and he was talking about maybe retiring soon, spending more time fishing up at Flaming Gorge. I told him he'd last 2 weeks before missing the job. We both laughed, but we knew it was probably true. The night was slow, real slow. Around 10, we got a call about an older guy with chest pains, but he ended up refusing transport. Sat in his recliner with a beer. Said he'd rather die at home than spend one more night at the damn hospital. Hard to argue with a man like that. So we came back, cleaned the stretcher, settled in. Midnight came and went. The radio was dead silent. Not even dispatch chatter. Just static. Rick said it reminded him of that time the repeater went out during the big snowstorm in '09. Then at 1:37 a.m., it came through. Crackly voice from dispatch. Unit 4, possible 1056, male subject down off the shoulder, County Road 12, near Bottle Hollow. No vehicle. Caller reports subject is breathing but unresponsive. No further details. I remember glancing at Rick. He raised one eyebrow, like, "You hear that? That stretch of road near Bottle Hollow. You don't get a lot of traffic out there. No reason to be out that late unless you're up to no good. Or lost." I grabbed the mic. Unit 4 en route. Took us 20, maybe 25 minutes to get there. The road was rough, gravel and washboard, with a couple sharp turns that'll sneak up on you if you're not careful. The moon was high, bright enough that we didn't need the brights, but still, the place felt swallowed up. Not dark exactly. More like it had depth. Hard to explain. And quiet. Too damn quiet. Not a cricket, not a coyote, not even wind. Like the whole place was holding its breath. We spotted the guy just off the right shoulder, maybe 10 yards down an embankment. No car in sight, no tire tracks, no debris, nothing that suggested how he got there. Just him, curled up in the dirt like he'd fallen from the sky. I hopped out first, Rick right behind me. We approached slow, called out, "Sir, can you hear me?" No response. As I got closer, I could hear something. He was whispering, not loud, not frantic, just steady, like he was reciting something under his breath. I knelt down beside him. He was a white male, maybe mid-30s. Looked like he'd been through hell, face scraped, clothes torn, blood on his shirt. His eyes were open, unfocused, blinking slow. I asked again, "Hey buddy, can you tell me your name?" That's when I heard it. He answered, but it wasn't English. And it sure as hell wasn't Spanish. Not Navajo either. I've been around long enough to pick up bits and pieces of all three. But this was different. It sounded like nothing I've ever heard. Almost like chanting, but broken, like it had been chewed up and spit out wrong. Soft, rhythmic, but off. The cadence was all wrong for any human language I know. I looked back at Rick. He was just staring. "What the hell is he saying?" he asked. I shook my head. No idea. We ran the basic checks. Pulse was strong, pupils reactive, but he didn't seem fully there. Like his body was present, but his mind wasn't. We needed to get him out fast. As we lifted him onto the stretcher, he suddenly jerked, grabbed my forearm hard and locked eyes with me. And then he spoke again, louder this time. Same strange language, but it wasn't gibberish. It had emotion, meaning, like he was pleading. I've had patients speak in tongues, folks in seizures, people high out of their minds. This wasn't that. His eyes were steady, focused. He was trying to tell me something. And then, he just let go, relaxed, head slumped back. Still breathing, but the tension in him disappeared like someone flipped a switch. I don't spook easy. But something about that moment chilled me. I didn't say anything to Rick, but I felt it in my gut. We were in over our heads. We loaded him up and started driving back toward Roosevelt. About 5 miles out, Rick slammed the brakes. Jesus, did you see that? Something had crossed the road, right in front of us. I swear on my father's grave, I saw it too. Tall, thin. 2 legs, but not shaped right. It moved fast, but not like a deer or a coyote. It didn't run, it glided, like fog with bones. We jumped out, flashlights sweeping both sides of the road. Nothing. No footprints, no broken brush, nothing on the dash cam. Just dust and moonlight. We didn't say much the rest of the ride. When we got to the ER, the guy was still out cold. Nurses took over, ran the usual tests. His vitals were stable, but nobody could figure out what language he'd spoken. He had no ID, no phone, no wallet, just blood-stained jeans and a shredded t-shirt. Like he'd walked out of the earth itself. Rick leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "You ever see anything like that?" I didn't answer right away, because no, I hadn't. And a part of me didn't want to again. Soon as we got him loaded into the back of the rig, I shut the doors and just stood there for a second. I don't usually freeze. Been doing this too long. But something about that moment, the way he grabbed me before, the look in his eyes, it had me rattled. I couldn't shake it. Rick called out from the driver's seat, "You good?" I nodded, climbed in beside the stretcher. The guy was lying real still, eyes closed now, lips barely moving. He was still whispering, that same strange rhythm, like he was finishing a sentence he'd started hours ago. I strapped him down, checked the monitors. Vitals steady, BP a little low, heart rate normal. Nothing about his body gave a damn clue how he ended up out there, bleeding and babbling in a language nobody could place. I radioed the ER, gave them what little info we had. Male, approximately 35, unknown trauma, unresponsive, non-English speech, possibly delirium. They asked about injury specifics. I had nothing concrete. Just bruises, scrapes, that gash over his eye. Didn't add up to the state he was in. As we pulled onto the highway, I tried again. "Can you hear me?" I said. "You with us?" His eyes fluttered, then opened real slow, locked right onto me, not wild or panicked, just there, awake, aware. And he smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It wasn't creepy either, just tired, like he'd been through something big, bigger than anything I could imagine, and somehow he knew I'd never understand it. Then he whispered again, a full sentence, same language, same strange tone. But this time, it got to me. I felt something in my chest, like a chill, but from the inside. That's the only way I can describe it. He reached out, slow, deliberate, and placed his hand on my arm. Now, normally, you'd push back, right? Maintain control, safety protocol and all. But I didn't. I just froze. His grip wasn't tight, wasn't threatening, just steady. And his eyes, still locked on mine, were filled with something I still can't name. Sadness, maybe. Or knowing. Like he saw everything in me. My years, my wear, the faces I've tried to forget. And then he said something else. One long phrase, rhythmic, like a verse. And I swear, every hair on my arm stood up. I didn't understand a word, but I felt it, deep, like something passed through me. Then he let go, closed his eyes again, and didn't say another damn thing the rest of the way. I sat there the whole ride back, not taking my eyes off him. Every bump in the road made me flinch. Rick kept checking the mirror, asking if he was stable. I'd just nod. I couldn't explain what was going on inside me. We got to the ER, wheeled him in. The nurses could tell right away something was off. Not just medically, there was a feel to him. You know how some people bring a certain energy into a room? His was like static. You couldn't ignore it. We gave report, such as it was. They asked what language he spoke. We both said, no clue. One of the younger nurses, local girl, said it didn't sound like anything she'd heard, even from the old Ute elders. That got a couple heads turning. They did a full workup. CT scan showed a minor subdural hematoma. Nothing fatal. Nothing that should have knocked him out like that. Tox screen came back clean. No drugs, no alcohol. Blood work was off though. Markers didn't match any known profile. Like his system was human. But not quite right. I stayed in the ER longer than usual. Something told me not to leave yet. I stood outside the trauma bay, watching through the glass as they hooked him up, ran tests, tried to get answers. Rick came up beside me. You feel it too, huh? I didn't answer right away, just nodded. This ain't just some drunk wandering off the res, he said. No, I muttered. This is something else. They kept him overnight. No change. Still unconscious. No ID. No family. No match in the system. Like he didn't exist. The docs were stumped. One of them tried to say it was a rare dialect, maybe Eastern European, but he didn't sound too convinced himself. I asked if I could sit with him a while. Just me and him. They let me. I pulled up a chair, sat there in that quiet room, listening to the machine's beep. He looked peaceful, almost like he'd made peace with something the rest of us would never understand. And I started to think about all the stories. The things folks whisper about in these parts. Skinwalkers, visitors, ancient things that roam the land after dark. I never believed any of it. Thought it was superstition. But sitting there, watching that man breathe slow and steady, I started to wonder. Maybe not everything needs to be believed to be real. Maybe some things just are. I don't know why I stayed that long. Normally, after a drop-off, you give your report, maybe hang around a few minutes to see if they stabilize the patient. Then you head back, clean up, restock. That's the rhythm. You don't linger. Not unless there's a reason. But with him, I just couldn't leave. He was unconscious again, breathing steady, vitals holding. But there was something about the way he looked lying there, like he was resting after carrying something heavy. Not his body, his soul, if that makes any sense. Like he'd come a long way just to die quietly in that bed. I pulled a chair up beside him and sat down. The room was dim, quiet. The kind of stillness you only get in hospitals after midnight. Just me, him, and the slow beep of the monitor. And I kept thinking about that look he gave me in the rig, when he grabbed my arm, when he looked straight through me. Hell, I'll never forget that. His eyes weren't scared. They weren't confused either. They were clear, focused, like he knew me, like he recognized something in me that even I couldn't name. And the way he spoke, man, that still gets me. I didn't understand a damn word, but I felt every one of them. It was like he was trying to give me something, or pass something on, a message, a warning, a secret too big to carry alone. I tried to brush it off, told myself it was just trauma, a brain injury, some rare language. Maybe he was from a remote part of the world, but deep down I knew better. It was deliberate. Whatever he said, he meant every word. I remember leaning in and whispering, "I don't know what you're trying to tell me, man, but I'm listening." And for just a second, just 1 second, his eyes fluttered. Not a full open, but like he was still in there, still aware. That was the moment. That half-second flicker of recognition. It damn near broke me. I've seen a lot of people die. Some go fighting, some go begging, some go quiet, like they're finally ready. But this guy, he didn't look like he was ready at all. He looked like he ran out of time, like whatever he was part of, whatever he was trying to escape or warn us about, it caught up to him, and all he could do in the end was hand a piece of it off to me. There's a weight in that, a responsibility I didn't ask for and don't understand, but I carry it all the same. I sat there for maybe an hour, never said another word, just watched him breathe. Eventually, a nurse came in and said I should go get some rest. I nodded, stood up, and looked at him one last time. Before I turned to leave, I reached down, touched his shoulder, and said real quiet, "Whatever you saw, whatever happened out there, I hope you found peace." That night, I didn't sleep. And the next morning, when I called the hospital to check, they told me he'd passed. No pain, no struggle, just stopped breathing around 6 a.m. Autopsy didn't find anything new. Bleeding from internal injuries, they said, liver damage. Probably took a blow to the side or maybe had a fall. Nothing unusual given what we found. But that wasn't the strange part. The strange part was what came after. They couldn't identify him. Not just no name, no matches anywhere. No fingerprints, no dental records, no DNA in any database, no missing persons that fit. No one came forward, no one claimed him. It was like he didn't exist, like he'd appeared out of thin air, spoken a few impossible words, and then vanished. County gave him a number, put him in the ground behind the municipal building, with a marker that just says, John Doe, Octa 2016. I've been back there, brought coffee, sat beside the grave, don't know why. Maybe just to remind myself it really happened. 'Cause the truth is, part of me still questions it. Not whether it was real, but what it was. I don't believe in aliens. Don't believe in monsters or curses or ghosts. I'm a man of facts. My whole damn job was to deal in facts. Body temperature, pulse rate, blood loss, measurables. But that night, that look, you can't measure that. You can't file it away and forget it. You feel it. And some nights when the wind gets too still or the radio goes quiet for just a little too long, I hear his voice. Not the words. Those I still don't understand. But the feeling behind them. That weight. And I wonder if maybe, just maybe, some of those old stories folks like me used to laugh off had a little truth in them after all. After he passed, I figured there'd be some kind of explanation. Somebody would call in. Some report would pop up. A hiker gone missing. A tourist, maybe. Hell, even a runaway. You don't just find a grown man in the dirt speaking a dead language and not have someone out there looking for him. But nothing came. Days went by, then a week. The county kept the body at the morgue, waiting. Tried facial recognition. Checked missing persons from 3 states. No hits. The hospital sent blood and tissue samples to Salt Lake, then Denver. The results came back odd. There was no match in any federal or state database, and not just for identification. The way I heard it, Some of the protein markers weren't quite right. Not wrong, just off. One of the texts said it looked like a mismatch you'd see from someone born overseas with no medical records. But when they tried to narrow it down, genetic origin, ancestry, everything came back inconclusive, like trying to pin down smoke. They even brought in a linguistics guy from BYU to listen to the audio we recorded in the rig. He was a sharp kid, real polite, sat down with the file, listened close. After a few minutes, he looked pale, said it didn't match anything modern. Closest he could think of was something in the Uralic family, some old Finno-Ugric dialect, maybe pre-modern Sami or something. But he said even that was a stretch, too many sounds that didn't line up. He asked me, where did he say he was from? I just shook my head. He never said. Nobody knew where to go from there. There was no cause of death that made real sense, not with his physical condition. No identity. No language we could place. No belongings. No record. No past. It was like he just arrived, had something to say, and then died before he could finish. Eventually, the county filed him as a John Doe. He was buried in a quiet plot behind the Public Works building near the other unclaimed. They gave him a number. I asked if I could attend the burial. Nobody else showed. Just me, the groundskeeper, and a worn-out preacher from Roosevelt. It was a cold morning. Sun barely up. No birds. I stood there with my hands in my pockets, listening to the preacher mumble something from Psalms. And I remember thinking, this ain't how it should end. Not for anyone. I never found out who paid for the marker. Could have been the county. Could have been someone who didn't want to be known. But what stuck with me most was the silence afterward. You'd think something like that, something this strange, would echo. That there'd be questions, reports, maybe even a story on the local news. But it all just vanished. People moved on. The file got closed. Unresolved fatality, they called it. I asked Rick if it bothered him. He said, yeah, but I don't want answers. Some things, you're better off not knowing. I didn't agree. Still don't. I started reading more after that. Books I never cared about before. Old tribal legends, historical maps, stories from the Ute and Navajo elders. I wasn't looking for ghosts. I was looking for a pattern. Something to make it make sense. I even drove past Skinwalker Ranch a few times. Didn't stop. Just rolled past slow, watching the fences, the fields, the stillness. Never saw anything. But every time, I felt like I was being watched. Not in a paranoid way, just that subtle pressure on the back of your neck, like you've walked into a place you weren't invited. I talked to an old Ute man at a diner once, asked him about the land out there, told him I saw something strange. He didn't ask what, just looked at me and said, some things don't come from here, and not everything that walks on two legs is what it seems. I asked if he believed in the Skinwalkers. He said, don't need to believe in them. They believe in us. I didn't press, but those words stuck with me. It's been years now. I still don't have answers. The station where I used to work's been renovated. New paint, new crew. Rick retired, moved down to Moab. We talk now and then, but we don't bring him up. I think it scares him more than he wants to admit. Me? I still see that man's face in dreams. Not nightmares, just dreams. Him, lying there, eyes open, mouth moving, saying those same strange words over and over, and I keep trying to understand, but I never can. It's not fear that keeps me up some nights. It's frustration. It's that ache in your chest when something doesn't add up and nobody else seems to notice. I've told this story to maybe 3 people. Most just nod politely and change the subject. Can't say I blame him. I don't know what it was I saw that night, who he was, where he came from, what he was trying to say, but I know it meant something, and the fact that no one could tell me what. That's what I live with. Not the man dying, not the weird words, not the thing we saw across the road. It's the not knowing. That's what stays. It's been, 8, 9 years now. Still feels fresh. Not like a memory. more like something I carry in my chest. Quiet most days, but when the house is real still, or when I'm driving alone down an empty road, it stirs, like it's still unfinished. There's plenty I've learned to live with from the job. Screams, blood, that look people get when they know they ain't gonna make it. You learn to tuck those things away. You stack them in a mental closet, slam the door shut, and hope nothing leaks out. But this one, I never could put it away. And not because of the horror. It wasn't gruesome. He wasn't mutilated or disfigured. Hell, I've seen worse injuries at a county fair. But something about him, the way he was there, alone, out of nowhere, trying to say something that mattered, and then dying without a damn soul knowing who he was. That stuck with me in a way nothing else ever has. And what gnaws at me most is that I don't know if he ever wanted to be found. That part, that eats at me. Some days I think he was trying to escape something, maybe someone. Maybe he made it as far as he could, and I just happened to be the guy who got there before the clock ran out. Other times, hell, I don't know. Maybe he wasn't supposed to be here at all. Maybe he slipped through some crack in the world we don't know how to look for. I know that sounds nuts. Believe me, I hate saying it out loud. I still feel stupid even thinking it. But I've turned this over in my mind so many damn times trying to find a straight line through it. And I just can't. I've got a file on him. In my house. Nothing official, just a manila folder with copies of the paramedic report, some scribbled notes I wrote down after the shift, and a couple printouts of maps of the area we found him in. I don't know why I keep it. Like maybe one day something'll click. Some detail I missed. Or maybe I just don't want to forget. His face shows up in my dreams sometimes. Not in a scary way, just watching. Calm. Like he's waiting for me to figure it out. Like he still needs me to listen. And I do. God knows I do. I've replayed that damn moment in the rig 1,000 times. Him grabbing my arm, locking eyes, speaking that string of words like it meant something urgent. And the way it felt when he looked at me. Not panic, not pain, just meaning. Whatever it wasn't random. And I couldn't give him what he needed. I was trained to treat trauma, not translate deathbed riddles. That failure sticks. I started going out there more after I retired, that stretch of road near Bottle Hollow. I don't go far off it, no need to play cowboy, but I'll pull off, sit for a while. Just listen. Sometimes I think I hear something, like faint voices way off. But I can never be sure. Might just be the wind. Might be nothing. But that place feels different now. And I'm not the only one who says so. Couple locals have told me they don't hunt out there anymore. Said it started feeling wrong. One guy said his dogs won't go past a certain fence line. Just sit down and whine. I know most folks roll their eyes at that kind of talk. I used to be one of them, not anymore. And it ain't about believing in stories. I still don't think there's a creature with glowing eyes running through the sagebrush. But I do think there are things we don't understand. Places that hold memories. Or something older than memory. Maybe not evil, just outside our comprehension. That's where this whole thing lives now. In that unknown. My wife, God bless her, she tried to get me to let it go. Said I did my job. I was there for him. I gave him a chance. But she doesn't get it. Not really. This job, it changes how you look at people. You start seeing them as puzzles, symptoms, stories that are trying to end. And when you can't close that story, when it just stops mid-sentence, it leaves a crack. That's what this man was. A crack in the story. And once you've seen that crack, you can't unsee it. There's a kind of guilt in that too. Not the loud kind. Not like when you lose someone on the table and think maybe if you'd moved faster. No, this is different. It's quiet guilt. The kind that whispers, he came to you with something and you couldn't help. I did my job. I got him to the hospital. I kept him alive as long as I could. But whatever he needed, it wasn't medical. And I wasn't the right person. And I guess that's what hurts most. knowing I was probably the last person he saw, the last voice he heard, and still, he died a mystery. No one should have to leave this world without being known. No name, no home, just a whisper in a strange tongue, and a look that haunts me still. Some nights, when it gets real quiet, I sit out on my porch and look up at the stars. I think about all the things out there, planets, suns, silence, and I wonder if he came from somewhere beyond what I know, or if maybe he just got lost, like so many of us do in our own way. I'll never know, but I'll never forget him, and maybe that's what he wanted, just someone to remember. I guess what I'm trying to say is, sometimes this job gives you more questions than answers. You go in thinking you're going to be the guy who fixes things. And most days, yeah, you bandage the wound, stabilize the vitals, hand him off to the hospital, and move on. That's the rhythm. That's the deal. But once in a while, you get a call that breaks all the rules, one that sticks with you, one that leaves something behind. This one did that for me. I don't talk about it much. Not because I'm scared. Hell, I've seen worse. But because I still don't know what the hell happened. And folks get uncomfortable when you can't explain things. I've told parts of this story to a few buddies, some other retired medics. They nod, give me that look like they believe me, but not really. You can see it in their face. They're polite, but they think maybe I imagined part of it. Or maybe I was overtired, seeing shadows that weren't there. But I know what I saw, and more than that, I know what I felt. That man, whoever he wasn't just a body on a call. He meant something. He came from somewhere, and he died trying to say something important. And I think about that more than I care to admit. Not because I want answers now. I've made peace with not knowing, but because it changed how I look at things. For most of my life, I believed in logic. Science. You treat what you can see. You solve what you can measure. You move on. But this guy, he didn't fit in that world. He didn't bleed like he should have. Didn't talk like anyone we could identify. Didn't match a single thing in any database we had access to. And nobody ever came looking for him. Nobody. Like he'd never been part of this world to begin with. And the thing is, I can't shake the feeling that he wasn't alone. I don't mean that in some spooky way. I ain't saying aliens or ghosts or whatever. But I do think there are things out there, people maybe, living at the edge of what we call normal. Maybe just out of reach. Maybe they're trying to tell us something. Or maybe we ain't ready to hear it. That's where I land now. Not scared, just humbled. 'Cause if a man can show up like that, hurt, alone, speaking in words we don't even have the tools to translate, and then vanish without a trace, what else is going on out there? What else don't we see? What else don't we hear? 'Cause we're too sure we already got it all figured out. Sometimes late at night, I sit in the kitchen, drinking coffee, thinking about that moment when he looked at me. And I ask myself if I did enough. Not medically, I know I did what I could. But as a man, as another human being, did I listen close enough? Did I honor that moment? Or was I too caught up in trying to fix something that couldn't be fixed? If you've made it this far into my story, thanks for sitting with me. I know it's a lot. I know it's strange. But I figured, maybe someone out there's got a piece of the puzzle I'm missing. Maybe you've seen something you can't explain. Heard something that stuck in your chest like a stone. Or maybe you've had a moment, just one, where the world didn't feel quite right. Like you stepped sideways into something you weren't supposed to see. I ain't asking you to believe me. That's up to you. But I'll tell you this. Not everything that can hurt you leaves a bruise, and not every message comes in a language we know how to hear. So if you've had a moment like that, if there's a story you've never told 'cause you thought folks wouldn't get it, maybe now's the time. You don't gotta explain it. Just say it. We spend so much of our lives pretending we've got all the answers. But maybe the truth's quieter than that. Maybe it lives in the questions. In the things we carry and don't always share. That man's gone now. Buried without a name. Without a past. But I remember him. And maybe that's enough. Maybe remembering is the point. So yeah, that's my story. Take from it what you will. And if you've got one of your own, something that never left you, feel free to share it. You ain't alone. None of us are. Not really.